For those of us who have been completely swept away in the tides of the modern world, it's hard to imagine what life would be like without electricity, without running water, without the internet, or even without a telephone. Yet here in the wild woods of Wales, that is exactly how one woman lives in her quest to return to nature and simplicity. Hi Emma, lovely to meet you.
Great, nice to meet you too.
Walking down into this village, it's like coming into a little enchanted fairyland, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you. I think it is. Yeah.
Can you tell me how you came to be here on the land?
So me and the father of my children bought the whole farm originally, and then increasingly I had a call to, I call it do the Flintstones thing, so live more simply, no electricity and all of that, and build these little huts. So really, yeah, become more simple and more immediate in my connection and life with the earth. So to enter into a deeper relationship with the earth and not have any electricity, importantly, because that means without lights, you're living more in tune with the natural cycles and no distractions. And I think that is important in terms of reconnecting on a really deep level with the intelligence and consciousness of the earth and the natural realms.
Living in the woods with no electricity and living simply off the land, that's something that I think a lot of people would hold as being quite idyllic, but might be scared of in practice. What's the reality of living like that for you?
Yes, thank you. And I think you're right. You know, and it depends on the weather conditions. And so when people come here in the summer and there's beautiful weather, it seems like paradise. And then I say to them, well, you know, come back in the winter when the rain is horizontal and you might have a different experience. Yeah, the reality, it can be a bit gritty in the winter. You know, you've got to chop wood and carry water. You've got to be quite sorted, quite grounded, quite on it with the physical needs. And then you can have a great fire and have a lovely time if the weather's not totally easy outside.
And now you have built these beautiful structures yourself. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you constructed them?
I've been here 20 years and I've primarily learned how to do this from my mistakes. So the first huts that I built fell down. Not immediately, but over time. I was very poor at one point and I tried to get away with putting the bales like that rather than like that. Then I made structural mistakes. So the best way of learning is from mistakes. And now, 20 years later, I feel I know what I'm doing and I'm building the same now, which tells me that I'm happy with what I'm doing. I make a platform sitting on heart oak, which blows down every winter. And everything sits on that. The straw bales, which make the walls, and then the roof sits on the walls. There's no wooden hinge that goes down into the ground that is supporting the roof. And the plaster, I make my own secret recipe, which is like horse shit and clay, mud, and that just comes from the land. And that's not waterproof, so I've made a big overhang, which is really great, really useful, so that works well. It protects the walls, the overhang. So it's about 4 meters wide, and importantly, these huts are for the winter really, or for the bad weather. They're shelters. They're not places that I sit around on my computer all day. I'm just in there sheltering from the rain or making a hot drink. So yeah, the design is to make them work in the winter primarily.
And they have these lovely green roofs. Can you talk to me about this?
Yeah, the green roof involves the waterproof membrane, which is not local, you know, it's rubber. And of course, rubber is a wonderful gift actually from nature. But the green roof, the growing roof, I really like it. I like that you're creating habitat actually on the roof. And I like that the houses kind of just become invisible really into the background. So you can get right up to this before you even know it's here. So part of a fairy village is that you go along a path and then, ooh, there's something here. But it's not obvious and it blends in really to the natural surroundings.
What was it that attracted you to earth building?
Well, probably various different things. So living simply is really important so that you don't have to be a wage slave and take part in the madness, we call it. We don't call it reality because it isn't real. So building everything in my life is about trying to live in a way which doesn't hurt the earth and that is more harmonious.
And can you talk to me a little bit more about what it was that called you to want to create that simplicity in your life?
On the physical, I was driven by an awareness that life is quite hectic and complicated in the modern world, and that you get caught up with money and all sorts of things that mean you've got to earn lots of it, and you don't have time to really step back and have space to really consider things. And I didn't want to get hooked into being a wage slave. I knew that I wasn't interested in trying to earn lots of money. I've come to realise that I'm a conscientious objector to more or less everything in our so-called culture. I don't want to get involved. I don't like it. So I have to create a parallel reality that I can be happy in. So this is my response to what do I really want to live in? What's my perfect home? This is my ideal home.
Well, I just think this home is so lovely. It is perfectly nestled into the woodland, and I would love to see inside. Can we take a look, please?
Yeah, of course, come in.
Thank you very much. Oh, this is just so cozy.
Yeah, they're quite warm. Straw bale's quite wide and they're good insulation.
The place here just has such a lovely feeling. I love the way that the windows just connect you to the outdoors. And you have no curtains as well, so you're sort of always exposed to the light.
Yeah, I really like starlight and moonlight coming in. That's really important to me, so that's why there's no curtains, because especially in the winter, you know, when you don't have electricity, it's dark for quite a long time, right? So if I wake up in the night and I can see this beautiful starlight, I might get up and go for a walk because there's a lot of night. And I kind of like to think that moonlight is important for us as well as sunlight.
You've created these really beautiful patterns with the roof as well. Can you talk to me a bit about how this is constructed?
Yeah, so this is called the Reciprocal frame roof. It's nice because each rafter sits on another one. If you've ever done that thing of being in a circle and you all sit down on each other's laps at the same time, it's the same principle. And I like that because it's a sort of metaphor for equality, and it shares the load. There's 13 rafters because that's the number of moons every year.
Yeah, beautiful. Can you tell me about how you've used the space in here?
Yeah, so there's a handmade woolen mattress over there. That's my bedroll, so that rolls out obviously when I'm sleeping. The fire that I made myself, that's kind of roughly in the north, the coldest direction. The fire's where everything to do with cooking happens, apart from outside when it's really hot. Obviously, I like cooking outside in the summer too, but yeah, that's where I do all the cooking most of the year.
I think the whole idea of cooking over an open fire is just so romantic. But again, what's the practicality of that? Like, if every single day you've got to light a fire before you can make yourself a cup of tea in the morning?
Yeah, you're right. You need to have dry twigs or dry wood. But I don't have to go out to work to earn money to pay for the gas or the electricity that you may. So in terms of time and motion, who's to say what takes longer?
That's a great point.
And one of my favourite things when I've got a bit of time is to go wandering off into the wood and collecting a sack of twigs. You know, dry twigs is one of the precious things. And I say to people, don't take anybody's dry twigs because that may start a war, may break out. So in this lifestyle, you know, a nice sack of dry twigs is something precious.
Village conflict.
And very satisfying, you know, when you can just light a fire like that and have your cup of tea quick. Yeah.
And then there's also not really any prep area or countertop or anything like that. So how do you get around preparing all your food and everything?
Oh, I just have a chopping board and I just do it on the floor. I'm very floor-based. Some people really like doing things standing up. It's like modern life, kitchens and all of that is around standing up, isn't it? And I've never really adapted to that. I'm a squatter. I'm floor-based, and I've never really kind of managed to raise myself up to use furniture or all that business.
This is just such a good reminder for me as well, because even in tiny house world, I feel like in so many ways we just try to cram all of the modern conveniences and all of the sort of conventional housing aesthetics into a smaller space. But what you're doing here is really an exploration into what's truly necessary and what we really need, and just getting rid of all convention, isn't it?
You see, I think it's not really long in the terms of the history of humans since we probably all lived in little round huts on the ground. So drafty, cold stone houses and cold floors, and then people raise their beds up, and then windows are sort of high up, so you have to sit on a chair, otherwise you can't look out of it. And then you have this stuff called furniture, which takes up a lot of room. I don't really get it. You know, if I had a table and chairs in here and a sofa and you wouldn't be able to move.
One of the things that I notice when we walk in here is we're surrounded by all of your things. Sort of everything is open and exposed, and there's nothing hidden away in cupboards or anything, is there?
No, there's not any cupboards, you're right. And periodically I sort of wish I had somewhere to hide things away so it would feel a bit less messy. But I try not to have too many things because they just get in the way ultimately. I actually have to sort of fend off stuff and weed stuff out quite often on quite a regular basis because, yeah, as you say, there's no storage. What you see is what you've got, and it's nice just to keep it not too cluttered up. So, yeah, I'm in the middle of kind of having a decluttering at the moment.
Now, obviously in here, there's no toilet, no shower. Can you talk to me a little bit about how that all works?
Yeah, that's probably the aspect of life here that people find most challenging, perhaps, when they come from normal, modern life. No hot shower, no running water in the space. But, if you go down to the little waterfall in the wood to collect the water, it's so fresh. Turning on a tap and drinking water that's sat in a plastic pipe just doesn't really do it for me. And I could easily have it piped into the hut here, but it's a small space and it makes quite a lot of sense to keep it outside, really. And in terms of washing and keeping clean, I collect rainwater off the roof in buckets. There's a little river down the bottom of the land where you can get in and have a little swim. There's a sauna and there's a bath that you can light the fire under. We have composting toilets. The one I've built recently is so nice. I look forward to going there in the morning. It's like a bird hide and it's on a little cliff, like looking into the forest.
Now, one of the things that I think is really beautiful about this space is that it's legal. Can you tell me a little bit about the low impact building initiative here in Wales?
As far as I'm aware, my permission was the first granted under the then Low Impact Sustainable Development Policy, which then became called One Planet Development, I think. It took about 8 years to get that permission, but yeah, it's good. I feel like it's opened the door for this kind of thing now to be possible. And I think it's really important that as a species, we start to acknowledge that the importance of shelter as a human right, that we've created a society where a lot of people can't afford a roof over their heads. And that is something shocking. It's not something to be proud of. I don't think we can call it civilised behaviour. Everybody needs a secure home and shelter. And so one of the things I hope as a side shoot of what I'm doing is that people can be inspired to see that it doesn't have to cost a lot, maybe £1,000 at the moment to build what is my ideal home. And it's fun to do it. And all of the sort of money, the value, the insurance, all the craziness that goes with the modern housing scene is completely unnecessary, I think. Yeah. And it causes a lot of ecological problems as well, the construction industry.
Because of course, when this home is no longer lived in, everything here can just go back to the earth, can't it?
Yeah, apart from the glass, but everything else will compost or can be recycled.
So you mentioned that one of these homes costs around £1,000 to build. When you compare that to what people out there are spending on housing, that's really quite crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's really, really crazy, especially for young people. And I'm now a grandmother. I don't want people to mortgage away their lives. I want people to be free. I want people to be happy. I think the earth wants us to be happy. And if we can live simply like this, I'm really, really happy living like this. I'm not in some sort of hair shirt story. I consider that I live in luxury and that I have a really fantastic life. I think we've kind of lost track of that possibility in the complexity and the expensiveness of the modern madness. I've lived here for 20 years now, and it's been a journey of discovery, of discovering how to build my ideal home, what that might look like. You know, for me, I think our houses are in some way ourselves, aren't they? And so I feel that my journey to discover myself has kind of come along hand in hand with my journey to build my own ideal home. And this house is in some quite close way a reflection of myself, my wishes, and I've learned a huge amount on the journey of learning what my ideal home looks like, what it's made of, how to build it, how to keep it simple, how to make it comfortable and beautiful. And mostly I'm just so happy to live in a little round space. Round is very different. It's quite sort of woomy, very held, and yeah, very cosy.
Emma, I just think that your home is so beautiful. Walking here into this space, I can immediately feel that my blood pressure has dropped a little bit. I think what you've created here is something truly wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing it with me.
You're welcome.
Visiting Emma's home has been a really beautiful reminder for me. It's so easy to get swept up in the modern world and thinking that we need to have more and be more, but in truth, happiness can really be found in simplicity. And that is exactly what Emma has found here.